And we are live. A very beautiful afternoon in my very sunny Botswana, my little country right next to South Africa. And I'm joined by my super awesome family from the Happiness Tribe. They'll introduce themselves. They love Mike, but they don't like it when I do their intro. And we have a special guest joining us with very awesome good news, where today we're going to get to know what's the relationship between our genes and happiness. And we have Dr. Russ, who is running the show. So I'm just gonna do the honors and give the mic to Dr. Russ. And my name is Miss Kim. I'll be supporting you on the backside. I'll be in the studio. Welcome, joining us from LinkedIn, YouTube friends, and Facebook. Join the show, listen up, get ready with your pen because there will be gems dropped and you might want to write them. You can post your questions. I will be putting them on LinkedIn where everyone can access them. And I am so sure Dr. Dan will help us get to understand this special topic and Miss Paula as well. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Rush.
Thank you, Miss Kim. I hope my volume is good. And while we get started, please give Dr. Dunn the opportunity to be able to share her screen because we are visual and it's a great opportunity again for people to see and not just hear. And so, hello, everyone. It is Sunday morning, EST, 10 a.m. here. I'm in Atlanta or College Park in Georgia, United States. This is the Happiness Tribe, THT, our Sunday morning podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or you're watching this on repeat. I'm Dr. Ross, that's RAS, because I'm really a scientist. I'm also a STEM educator and I'm a researcher as well. And within that research, I research neurotrauma and recovery and rehabilitation from neurotrauma. And with that, we can look at, and what we're looking at and talking about today is epigenetics. And what does epigenetics have to do with not just trauma, but health and wellness, and also what is the tie-in with nutrition and what can you do? So stay tuned as we have a special guest, Dr. Jay Dunn from My Happy Genes. And also I have my co-host here, Miss Paula. Marjorie, are you there? Would you like to say hi to the audience today?
I certainly would. I certainly would. So thank you so much, Dr. Roz. Thank you, Dr. Dunn, for coming to spend this time with us and helping us to understand exactly what My Happy Gene is. How does it work? How does epigenetic impact our sense of happiness or well-being? I'm a member of the Happiness Tribe. I'm a farmer. I'm a resilience farmer. And I'm excited about this show today because I had a son that was born with a genetic disorder, and it was really gene therapy that saved his life. And we have some of the most prevalent diseases in my family that are called the top 5. And so I'm excited to learn a few things to understand better how genes and environment impact either the impact of the disease or how we can even reverse those those adversities caused by those. So thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Forgive me, for some reason my camera is on, but I can't see myself. No one can see me, but you can hear me, I hope. And so thank you all so much. I'm excited about this.
Absolutely. Sorry for that little audio trouble there. Thank you, Miss Paula. So yes, today, thank you, audience, for showing up. And as we get started today, again, we're in the midst of our planning for the Zanzibar retreat. So if you guys have been tuning in for the last couple of Sundays, you know that we had the former minister of tourism as well as the minister of education from Zanzibar, and we had a couple entrepreneurs on as well to talk about health, wealth, and technology. And with that, My Happy Gene is right at the intersection of health, wealth, and technology. But before we get to My Happy Gene, who is Dr. Jay Dunn? Hello, Dr. Dunn. How are you doing? Would you
I'm
like to
doing
introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you all for inviting me to talk with you today. I'm honored to be a part of this group. This is an amazing concept, the happiness tribe. I love it because it's worldwide and you're working on increasing the brain chemistry and, and the happiness of the world. And that's right up my alley. And it's something I'm very passionate about. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, which you may go, well, what does that have to do with biochemistry and genetics? And that's a long story, but essentially, I've been practicing natural medicine for since 1988. So what is that? 36 years, 37 years now. So it's adding up. Um, and specializing in functional medicine and understanding the body and how it works, and which led me down the path of looking at genetics and found some very stunning information about how our genes affect our not only our brain chemistry and our sense of happiness, but our overall health and how we can work with it with natural vitamins, minerals, amino acids, all kinds of natural products that can either upregulate our genes or downregulate our genes. And so I'll be talking a lot about that today. Started a company called Holistic Methylation, where I taught doctors all around the world how to look at genetics and how to design nutritional diet, lifestyle, and supplement programs around our genes to optimize our health. And a company called My Happy Genes, which is a software program that does the same. It looks at our genetic variants, looks at the symptoms you're having, and then designs diet, lifestyle, and supplements around your genes to optimize their function. So that's the cliff notes.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn. That's very awesome. And yes, you already said a couple key words that if you're listening, you should write down, but you will hear again. You're going to hear some keywords repeatedly. But again, since we are a global organization or a global tribe, I do want us to start in some of the basics, right? Because everyone is not a professional or professionally trained in nutrition, biomedicine, genetics, or what have you. So, starting back from the beginning, again, we're talking about health, wealth, and technology. And it's important because I want you to tie all of this together because what we're talking about here represents all three. So, from the health side, before we get to my happy gene, just as a person, again, as an individual, you can speak from a woman's side as well, but speak to me as far as personally taking health into account. Was that a part of your life coming up, and or was it something as you became a professional became important? How did health become important in your life?
That's a really good question because the majority of healthcare practitioners start with their own particular health issues, as did I, looking for answers that modern medicine couldn't supply. I had all kinds of health issues, including pretty severe depression, fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, headaches, nausea. I just felt lousy all the time. And I'd been raised in kind of a medical model and decided to finally, I'm pretty stubborn. I don't like to go to doctors, but finally went to a doctor and they did all this blood work and they said, there's nothing wrong here. Here's a prescription for headaches. And I was like, wait, you don't know what's wrong with me, but you're willing to cover it up. It just didn't strike me as an intelligent thing to do. So I kept looking and I thought maybe it's my diet. Maybe McDonald's hamburgers and milkshakes aren't the best diet. I have to say that back then I was eating pretty lousy. And I changed my diet, because everybody says, oh, eat more fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and all that. So I started to do that and I felt worse. It made me worse. And I was like, what is this? Everybody tells you to eat that way. This is healthy. And I felt more headaches and more fatigue and more nausea. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I need supplements. So I went to a health food store and looking around at the health food store, and there are just so many choices. There's 20 brands of vitamin C. There's, just overwhelming choices as far as supplement goes. And I had no idea, what to take. And so I was talking to the woman in the store and I said, what do I take? This is what I'm feeling. And she's like, I don't, she said, maybe you should try chiropractic, because I said, what does that have to do with nausea and headaches and fatigue? And she said, well, you'd be surprised what chiropractors can do. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I went to a chiropractor, got adjusted, didn't help. It was like, okay, check that one off. And then my roommate at the time said, you should try this guy out. He does some pretty unusual things, and he's very smart and has helped a lot of people. And I was like, all right, I'm open. And I ended up going to a kinesiologist, somebody who does muscle testing. And within 10 minutes, he told me exactly why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and changed my diet. He said, I'm eating too many roughage foods. It was disturbing my digestive system and causing a backup of toxins, which was causing the headaches and nausea and fatigue. And then he gave me some supplements and adjusted me. And then within a week, I was like, oh my God, this is huge. This is a huge change. This guy did muscle testing on me and found within 10 minutes exactly what was going on with me. I was like, all right, I got to do that. I got to figure that out. I got to keep doing this, learning more about my body. And it led me to he encouraged me to go to chiropractic school, went and got my pre-med. You have to do 4 years of pre-med, and then it's another 4 years of school, and got my doctorate, my Bachelor of Science and my doctorate in Iowa. But I went back to, I'm not much of a chiropractor. I'm not really strong in chiropractic. I think it's helpful, but I'm really strong when it comes to understanding the body, the biochemistry of the body, and understanding how nutrients and diet and lifestyle can affect our health. But I still was struggling with depression. It was something that just didn't respond to anything I did. I knew all of these different tricks and tips. Everybody tells you, oh, think positive, try to do uplifting things every day, do affirmations. None of that really had any lasting effects. And I
So,
just thought,
Dr. Dunn, for the audience, to get the audience up, what you in I want to ask two things here.
okay,
One, what was the time frame in understanding your condition? And you went through the medical establishment kind of options. Then you went through this nutritional search, right? And then you went on to actual physical contacting, and you found at an intersection where the body and nutrition, there was a link between the body and nutrition, but still at this point there was a disconnect through the cognitive part, right? Because the depression was still there, but the fatigue and the physical, there was some link between the nutrition and that experience. So again, I just wanted to make the point of that connection between when we say you are what you eat, that is literal. And you started to see that connection there with nutrition and the physiology in the body. And now you're going into that cognitive part. Continue.
yeah, and that brings up a point that just because what works for one person and makes them healthy, they think that that's going to work for everybody, and it's never that way. It's never a one size fits all when it comes to nutrition. So we'll get more into that today when we talk about diet and how it relates to our genetics. But yeah, so I was still searching for my own answers, and for patients that didn't respond to the things I was doing. I mean, a lot of people responded. I had a very successful practice. But at a certain point, some people were just like, I'm not getting any better, and I still have these issues. I'm like, we're missing something. After 30 some years of practicing, I went, we're missing something. And so, personally as well. But I started to think about some things. One was, my father died of lung cancer when he was 55. I was 20 years old, and he did everything he could to get it. He was on a mission, I think. He smoked and drank and never ate anything healthy and never exercised. It stressed out the wazoo. He did all the things you do to get cancer. But the interesting thing was his best friend married my mom after my dad died, and he was doing the same things. Nothing healthy, but he lived another 30 years. And so the only thing we can do is say, oh, that's genetics, and just kind of park it over there. We don't know how to work with it, but we know he's got good genes, And so that made me curious. And the second thing that made me curious, again, was the people that didn't respond to all the treatments, all the tools I had in my bag, and I had a lot of them. there's a small percentage that just didn't respond, and I'm like, something's missing. And then, of course, my own struggle with depression, which was pretty oppressive. And you put on a happy face and you pretend like you're fine, and you go about your day, and nobody knows. There's such a shame around it, and a guilt almost for not being happy. Like, what is the matter with you? Your life isn't that bad. So we hide it, and I get that, and a lot of people do. We just kind of put on a happy face and we go along. But I kept looking. There's got to be an answer, and so that's when I began to look at the genetic piece. Do you want me to go into that, Dr. Roz?
Absolutely. You can slow roll into that. And then if you want to get some visuals up and then give an actual so they can piece some of what I wanted them to get the human side as you're doing. And then we can roll right into actually what we're talking about so they can visualize.
Very cool. Yeah, we're going to get into, don't be afraid, because we're going to get into genetics and biochemistry. So, but it's easy to understand really when you break it down. It's very logical. So don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. So I got my genes tested, did it through 23andMe at the time, and put that information through an algorithm that pulls out genetic variants that may be affecting your body and brain. And I found that I had a genetic variant where I don't absorb vitamin D. The D can't get into my body, and I knew that I had trouble with D because my blood levels were always really low. And we all know how important, or most of us know how important vitamin D is for all kinds of things. But we think bone health, but it has so many other effects on the body. It actually upregulates about 900 different pathways in the body and different enzymes. So it's incredibly diverse and important. One of the things it does is upregulate the immune system, so you can fight infections. And we're going to talk about how it upregulates brain chemicals, and I'll show you a little picture here in a minute. But essentially, my brain couldn't, or I inherited genetic variants, and let me tell you a little bit what that means. You have a set of genes from mom and a set of genes from dad, and you inherit. That is a code. That's your blueprint, and it tells your body how to do certain things. Make enzymes in the body, which is the most important thing that we're looking at. So, for instance, if your parents gave you the wrong code to tell your body to make an enzyme, such as lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks down milk, right? If they gave you the wrong code for that, if both parents gave you the wrong code, then your ability to absorb lactase, or lactose, which is the milk sugar, the ability to make lactase is reduced by about 70%. So you're going to be more or less lactose intolerant. You're not going to be able to digest it, and it's going to sit there and ferment and cause problems. So if one parent gave you the wrong code, that's about 30% reducing activity of that enzyme. But when both parents do, that's what we call homozygous variants. And I'll show you more about that as we go. But it's a big hit in our ability to upregulate an enzyme. So for me, the vitamin D receptor that I inherited from my parents, both of them, I'm homozygous. So my ability to absorb vitamin D is reduced by about 70%. That's a pretty big hit. And so, at the time I was like, wow, sucks to be me, or can we do something about it? Is there anything that we can do to upregulate that and change that receptor, despite the fact that our genes are there. Their genes aren't going to change, but you can change the effects of the genes in your biochemistry. And I'll show you that in just a second. But so let me share. I'm going to present here. Let's see if this works. Image share screen. Okay. Let me pull up. Okay. Sorry. Hang on just a second. So I inherited a genetic variant. Wow. Okay, what's it doing? My happy genes. Oh, no. Choose what to share. Entire screen. Okay, share. Okay, can you see? Can you see that?
Not yet.
No. Okay. What's it doing?
It's loaded now. Yep.
Okay.
Client details.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you see this biochemistry chart?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Um, take a deep breath because I know it's a little like, what? So, this right over here, you can see that the VDR stands for vitamin D receptor. And that's where I had a genetic variant. And so again, my genes are telling my body how to make that receptor, and they're giving it the wrong code. So that enzyme is not going to work the same way as somebody who got the right code. It's like having the wrong recipe for making cake. Maybe you put in salt instead of sugar, and it's just not going to taste the same. So, my ability to make dopamine and serotonin, these are two brain chemicals that have to do with happiness and ability to have a good mood. And so, for instance, this dopamine, can you see that chart now too? The dopamine bell curve?
Um, we we don't see the chart yet. You just see the client detail page.
Oh, you're not seeing the biochemistry chart?
No.
Okay, let me try sharing again. Okay, stream. I thought it was going to do. Okay, stop screen. Okay, I'm going to present again and see if I can get it to happen. Share screen. Window, entire screen. Here we go. Okay, I think I got it this time. Can you see this?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, this is biochemistry. So we're looking at a biochemistry pathway in the body, and these pathways happen thousands of times a second at the cellular level. And essentially, again, this vitamin D receptor right here, the VDR, is the one that I inherited where I don't really absorb vitamin D well. And so that has a tremendous effect on various things, including infections, our ability to build bone, our ability to make dopamine and serotonin. You can see this little arrow going over here. So my brain could not make serotonin and dopamine, and therefore I was depressed. And it was like, oh my gosh, this explains so much. You know, it was like stunning to me that that made sense to me, and it explained why I'd been depressed my entire life and why I just couldn't, no matter what I did, I really couldn't get my mood up. It was always just very low, and I struggled with just bad thoughts and depression. And I'm fairly spiritual, so it was like, what's the matter with me? Why can't I just think positive? What is going on here? And when I started to look at that vitamin D receptor, like, how does it work? What is it? How can I make up for the fact that I have inherited this genetic variant from both parents? And I found an article that showed that if you take the vitamins K2 and A at the same time that you take D, it opens up that receptor so that your body can then absorb vitamin D. And I started doing that, and immediately my brain could make dopamine and serotonin. And so it was stunning to me that it was that simple. And so, like, it was within a few days, and I was like, I think this is happy. I heard about it, but I could never feel it because my brain chemistry never could, get online for making these neurotransmitters that are happy hormones, right? And so it was like, oh my gosh, this was stunning, and it was done with some simple nutrients. And so I was like, wow. And so can we do that with other genetic variants? So everybody with me so far? You guys are with it?
Yes, yes, Dr. Dunn. And this is Paula. I have a question that I want to ask, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting patiently. Thank you.
Dr.
Okay.
Dunn, this is perfect. Before you go further, can we stop at the point of when you talked about vitamin A and K? We mentioned neurotransmitters. So just for everyone, when we talk about a tissue or organ, right? It's made up of cells. Then when we're specifically talking about the brain, you have different types of neurons, which make up different pathways because they're connected to each other, right? And now when we're talking about in this reward pathway, right, where you feel these endorphins, you have dopamine, you have norepinephrine, you have epinephrine. So you have these things, again, that are positive, and they're balanced by that stress, cortisol, right? The stress pathway. And so by the balance between these positive molecules and these negative molecules, right? In essence, it's that balance which is important. But I wanted you to highlight the importance of what is a cofactor or a coenzyme compared to a transmitter, a
Really,
neurotransmitter.
yeah, really, really good question. And it has to do with the enzymes. So I'm going to show you a little slideshow here. Okay, share screen, entire screen. I think I got it this time. We'll see. Share. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Oh, wow. Look at that.
I see a lot of screens.
Can you see this?
Yes.
No. You can see the PowerPoint?
The enzyme
Yeah.
cofactors, yes, perfect.
Right. So imagine this is an enzyme. This is what we call an apoenzyme, and it's inactive. And so your genes code for making this enzyme. It's required to have a coenzyme because an enzyme is a key, a lock and key kind of thing. So if the substrate, this red thing, doesn't fit into this little key hole, then it's not going to do anything. And so the coenzyme has to fit in there. And you can see it's in here now. The substrate can then fit in there and it makes that enzyme work correctly. And so the cofactors include like magnesium or manganese, iron, copper, zinc, cobalt, calcium. And the coenzymes are vitamins. So it's simple. If you inherited an enzyme, but you're missing that coenzyme, which is the cofactor there, then that enzyme isn't going to work correctly to accept that substrate. For me, it was vitamin D. Couldn't fit into the receptor because I didn't have the coenzymes, the right coenzymes there. Does that make sense? Is that what you're looking for?
That's perfect. That's perfect. And what I like about this whole thing that we're talking about, Dr. Dunn, is this goes across um, race, it goes across age, right? It's so foundational. It goes across species, people, if you like animals. But go ahead, Dr. Dunn. Please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. We're 99.9% the same. And so, it's that very small percentage of difference that makes us uniquely different, and so some of the neurotransmitters we're looking at, adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine, glutamate, and endorphins, they all have an effect on our brain and our moods and our personality, which is just fascinating because, we all know people who are just happy all the time, la la la. Other people just can't seem to get out of it. Other people that are anxious and stressed all the time. Other people that are really chill, nothing seems to get to them. And so it's all these variants. And then, of course, oxytocin is another one that is a bonding hormone. You can either be high in it or low in it according to your genetics. And it either makes you like warm and fuzzy, or you're not the kind of person that people can really bond to easily. And so it's just fascinating how those levels of this enzyme can go up or down, and you can change it. You can change the levels of these neurotransmitters, and it really changes your personality. So
A
it's
big thing
fascinating.
related to that orexin when it comes to food and diet, and being able to control that orexin again works in that food center in your brain, which is important to this biochemistry we're talking about.
100%. Yeah. So let's look at serotonin. So it's all about balance. We want optimal neurotransmitter and receptor levels. And so if serotonin is low, it can lead to violence, aggression, depression, apathy, lack of pleasure, suicidality, impulsivity, high risk behavior, chronic fatigue, anorexia and cravings, low libido, and interrupted sleep. But too high can lead to mania, agitation, hyperreflexia. Your reflexes are hyper, excess sweating, fever, shaking, and diarrhea. So it's not, again, health is not found at the extremes. It's all balanced. Too high, not good. Too low, not good as well. And then when we look at dopamine, same kind of thing. Low dopamine or catecholamines. Dopamine is just a type of catecholamine, as is adrenaline. But it can lead to food cravings, ADD, ADHD, addictions, because our cravings are up, substance abuse, anger, impulsivity, high-risk behavior, and excess sleepiness. But too high can lead to schizophrenia, aggression and violence, delirium, anxiety, panic and worry, tachycardia or fast heart rate, high blood pressure, insomnia, paranoia, and chronic pain. Again, optimal transmitter levels is where we want to get to. And so you can use nutrients to balance these. So let me show you again. You guys seeing biochemistry again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right. So the three genes that I kind of want to focus on, so you get sort of the idea of how it relates to happiness and brain chemistry, is, again, the VDR. If you have genetic variants there, you don't make dopamine and serotonin well. So it's going to lead mostly to depression and anxiety, or cravings, addictions, just low energy, fatigue, etc. There's so much more, but those are kind of like the cliff notes. This MAO gene right here, this enzyme, breaks down serotonin. So that high serotonin is going to make you irritable and anxious and ADD. Grouchy. These people, you can spot them and you can go, that's an MAO gene. I see it in action. And I'm hoping that this can give you a little bit of insight into people's personality and some compassion, as it did me. I realized that it wasn't my fault that I couldn't be happy. And once I, got this balanced, it's like, that's where I live, is in Happyville, and it's a much better place to live. But if you get this enzyme balanced, people really calm down and they're a lot easier to be around, a lot less anxious and irritable.
I'm sorry, Dr. Roz, Dr. Dunn. I can't wait. I'm going crazy here right now. Dr. Roz, may I please ask Dr. Dunn
for
a
it.
question?
You're the co-host here. Go for it.
Jump in.
I didn't. I was trying not to interrupt you, but I like what you have on the screen, because let me just give you a quick. So I'm taking care of my mother. My mother's developed dementia, and she has diabetes, and she's hypertensive. I'm bringing this up because my mother has always been someone who is really congenial, funny, just a people person, and always seemed happy. And now, since she started with this dementia, she's exhibiting a sense of violence, anger. It's like two different people. So here's my question: can these enzymes change over time? And it sounds here like you're saying that a lack of, too much or too little of any of these enzymes can create some measurable changes, some perceptible changes in the personality or the behavior of the individual. Is it possible that my mother may be having some lack of, too much of, not enough of? Some of the symptoms and the physical responses that I saw describes my mother's behavior now perfectly. I'll stop there because I can go on and on. But I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
Yeah, very much so, Paula. It could be that, she just needs some cofactors here to break down serotonin. It might be that her brain is making too much at this time due to, is she on medications for dementia?
Yes, she's not on medication for dementia. I live in Belize, so I'm in a developing nation, and they don't even do tests for dementia. But she's symptomatic of dementia simply because, and I know this because of my background. But no, there's no testing here in Belize for any of that. That was going to be my next question, but I'm going to defer to the conversation. Thank you. And any other question you want to ask, please, because this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and there's so much that you can do, and that alone tells you that she's probably has slowed this enzyme down somehow, or is making excess serotonin one way or the other. And so you can add cofactors. If the genetic testing that we do at My Happy Genes will show you, does she have this gene and a gene variant, or this gene variant, or that gene? All the ones in purple there, those are all enzymes that affect the biochemistry of the body. We're just kind of focusing in on this one area of brain chemistry at the moment, but it's a big chart, and there are several of them that are very much associated with dementia or Alzheimer's or cognitive decline. And there's a lot
Wow.
you can do. You can upregulate BDNF gene, which is very much associated with Alzheimer's and cognitive dysfunction, and it's over here. And there are some lifestyle things you can do that'll change its expression. Very much, and that's why we do the testing, is because these are a lot of genes, and we can look at them and go, she's got this and this, and she's got this symptom. We know what to give her supplement wise. We know what to tell her to avoid food wise, because there are certain foods that will slow down this enzyme, including turmeric. And a lot of people take turmeric thinking that they're doing good anti-inflammatory things, but it can be very bad for somebody who's got an MAO variant, because it'll slow that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll
Dr.
slow that
Dunn, that is
enzyme.
so interesting because we've added turmeric to her diet. So this is
Get out of
very,
there.
yeah, this is very, very interesting. The other thing that triggered me when you had the chart up with too much dopamine, or not enough, I
Yeah.
saw some symptoms that on one side of the family, yes, on one side of the family, there seemed to be this whole intergenerational, like, I don't know if we can call it mental illness or some mental stuff, deficiency. And some of it actually has led to violence. And so now I'm thinking we need to get everyone in the family tested to have a better idea. Because we were just speaking about it a few days ago in the family and said it has to be some kind of genetic something. But I'm sorry, I digress. This is so important to my family directly that I'm fascinated that there may be
You
some answers.
you
Thank
shouldn't you shouldn't digress. This is the conversation, so there's no
Yeah.
need to digress. And what you're saying also, it's a propensity, right? For that genetic factor, but also you think about lifestyle. When families in close proximity, they eat similar, they behave similar. So now there's a confound on top of that. Dr. Dunn, take it away.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dr. Roz. And I don't mean to discount, that part of it. It's the nature versus nurture kind of argument, and they both are involved. As they say, genes load the gun, and the environment pulls the trigger. So it's your propensity. You're right. And so this one, Paula, you might be talking about the COMT gene enzyme that breaks down adrenaline and noradrenaline and dopamine. And so if you take a look at some of the symptoms that it can lead to: anxiety, ADHD, insomnia, depression, memory issues, bipolar kind of things. And we use minerals to balance that one. But if you add it to, if you have both the COMT and the MAO, and this one is going to be more irritability, aggression, ADHD, anxiety, insomnia, addictions, antisocial behavior, etc. If you add them together, your personality is going to be more OCD. You're going to be coming out of your skin and just anxious and like, don't touch my stuff. And it's sort of it compounds the problem.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say is I'm thinking as I'm listening to you and I'm looking at this, that my family really needs to be tested, because on the mental health side, and one of the things that the happiness tribe is focused on is mental and emotional well-being. And we're all from different, in this particular, in our group, in our tribe, we're from different parts of the world, and we're all seeing the manifestation now of what we deem as mental health breakdown. Like, people are just coming unglued, if I may. And so I was thinking, is it the stress that's triggering? Is it the environment, right, that's triggering sort of the epigenetic response where people just seem to be melting down? But what I'm looking at here is that it can be both internal and external, or maybe the gene was already there and it's triggered by stress. I don't know. But thank you. I'm just, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very much so, because adrenaline is secreted when you're under stress. And so this person, the comped person, is I call him comped person. You'll start to recognize these people because it kind of colors their personality. they're stress monsters, and they're always looking around, worried about what's happening, and looking around for danger, and just can't sleep, can't stop, can't slow down and relax. They are usually very creative, though. These are the happy people. They're usually like very uplifting and just nonstop, though, and but they're ADD, and they're usually very intelligent. They're born with higher dopamine levels, which increases intelligence and IQ. But they're the kids who can't focus in school because they're just coming out of their skin and they're ADD, but they already know, they're intelligent. They know the material, but they can't focus to get it done. So their grades can suffer because of that. But if we get them the right
Dr. Dunn,
nutrients.
on that, just for a minute, just imagine, I want you guys to visualize, if you understand, again, with the ADHD or even hyper, bipolar disorder, right? Where the hyperactive depressive disorders, where think about the biochemistry now, right? And you think about what you learned here. And now these enzymes, these cofactors, these things are coming from essential foods that you have to eat, right? And things like that, where there is a finite amount, right? And now we get into the biochemistry of what we're talking about, and you can start to peer in the biochemistry with what you're seeing cognitive and behaviorally, because you can imagine now these highs and lows could be when now you have to get so much of this neurotransmitter, this coenzyme in there to be functional, that you're on this high. And then once that's depleted, you have to go through this recovery stage, and then that's like that low until the system refix and be active again. This almost overlaps perfectly. I'm saying this without direct hands-on research, but just thinking about it cognitively. That's all I want to add. Thank you, Dr. Dunn.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And these people are more susceptible to PTSD, and stress conditions. Also, this enzyme clears estrogen, so it can lead to estrogen-driven cancers and estrogen dominance kind of symptoms. This one, the MAO. So if you're eating a lot of serotonin foods or tryptophan containing foods, because tryptophan is made into serotonin, let's say a lot of turkey or smoked fish or wine or cheese or chocolate, your serotonin levels are going to get too high. And if they have an MAO variant, they're going to get more angry and irritated and possibly violent. I had a patient call the other day who he'd done the first part of the testing. He didn't understand it yet, and he was like taking a ton of turmeric, and he was taking a bunch of methyl donors and things that were driving up the serotonin. He was screaming at my assistant in the phone. He was literally shaking from anger. And I was like, tell me what you're taking right now. You kind of have to back up and go, wow, his MAO is like way off the charts. And he said, yeah, I'm taking all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, just cutting those things out is going to make a huge difference in your irritability and your anger, because I can hear it. And he's like, oh, wow, didn't know that. So
I
he
have
like
two.
within a few days, he texted back, and he's like, he was much calmer and much more reasonable, and we could have a conversation. So it's fascinating how you can change it like that.
Can you speak, Dr. Dunn? I got three quick questions, and but can you speak again to um how quickly you see these effects or these impacts, right? Then the second thing is, on this graph that we're looking at, I see some warning and danger zones. Can you speak to that? And then the third is what we're talking about impacted by seasons? Because I know there's something as seasonal depression. Does this have anything to do with that?
Yeah, good questions. I'll come back to the danger zones in a second. But
Okay.
yes, the VDR at certain times of the year, at least here, I don't think it's so much in Belize or maybe in Africa, but we in the wintertime here, we don't get as much vitamin D, so it can really throw the VDR off balance. And so often we have to have people take a little more of vitamin D during that time. And in the summertime, when we're out in the sun, we don't have to take as much. So yes, there's a seasonal variation there. So let me show you one danger zone up here, because it relates more to brain chemistry. Tryptophan, is an amino acid. It's in a lot of proteins. And I mentioned some there. Turkey is very high in tryptophan. We all know that, you kind of go to sleep after you eat turkey at least Thanksgiving here. But there are a lot of foods like the wine, cheese, chocolate are high in tryptophan. If you have a genetic variant right here in this TPH, this is tryptophan hydroxylase, and its job is to turn tryptophan into serotonin. A genetic variant there will cause tryptophan to go up this way, up toward kynurenine and quinolinic acid, and that's a danger zone. And this can cause all kinds of, let me see if I can find the list here. This can cause all kinds of neuropsychiatric conditions, including ALS, Alzheimer's, brain ischemia, Huntington's, and Parkinson's. So it's a, this ought to be up your alley, Dr. Roz, because it can cause neurological damage and brain chemistry damage. So we look at how, and vitamin D upregulates that enzyme. So if you have a vitamin D receptor variant, see if you can follow this. If you can't absorb vitamin D, you can't upregulate that enzyme. And if you've got a genetic variant there, then tryptophan is going to go up in this direction. So it can create all kinds of problems for people. And that's what we call the danger zone here.
So, Doctor, as we do this, I want to back out a bit to then can we put this in the context? I want to get to the B2C and B2B in the context of this and what we're talking about. Can we talk to the B2C first, and then we'll talk to the physicians and caretakers directly?
Yes, let's look at My Happy Genes. This is so when we get your genes tested, we test for 675,000 of these enzymes, and then we pull out about 650 at current count and going, because there genetic research is happening all the time, and we're learning about new enzymes that affect the body and brain chemistry. There are 5 reports that you can get. There's a mood and personality report, which I'll show you in a minute, and diet and lifestyle, healthy genes, and genetic pathway analysis, and then personalized supplement recommendations. So in the B2C department, you can get these 2. As a consumer, you can get the mood and personality, the diet and lifestyle recommendations. So at least you can start with, oh, that's why I'm that way. I get it now. I see why. It explains a lot. And that's where the kind of what I call genetic compassion comes from, understanding why you are the way you are. And I can't tell you how big that was for me. And I'm sure it would be for a lot of people who are struggling and are embarrassed or don't understand why they are that way. And then you can get started.
And can you explain the ease of the test as well? Like how you actually, yes.
Yeah. So you just go on My Happy Genes, and there's a tab at the top that says purchase My Happy Genes DNA kit. And you can purchase that, and it comes to your house. And then it's a swab. You just swab the inside of your mouth, and then you send it in, and it goes to our lab, and it's all private. The only thing that's gone to the lab is a barcode and your saliva. They don't know who you are. They're not going to track you because they can't. They only have a barcode. I'm very adamant about privacy issues in genetic testing. I just don't think it's a good idea to have that information out there. And then that comes back into your account online. So you're the only person who can access that information because you've put an email and a password in there. So you're the only one who can log into that. And so it's all very private, and you get these 2 reports. And then if you want to work with a practitioner, we take you further into understanding your health risks, cardiovascular disease or dementia or all the different things that can go on in the body. And then we look at the pathways that I just showed you. Which pathways are your most important to kind of look at for the practitioner? And then we have you take a questionnaire. You fill out your symptoms, and the algorithm calculates your genes, your biochemistry, and your symptoms that you're having. Because just because you have a gene or a variant doesn't mean you're going to be expressing that particular variant in your body. So we have you work with a healthcare provider because we want to make sure that there's nothing contraindicated here. If you're on a medication, we don't want you to take something that's going to interfere with that medication. We want to make sure that you're under the care of a licensed healthcare provider. So Dr. Roz, more there, or is that what you're?
No, that I think that's good. Just the concept and the idea again, whether you are a individual, a patient, someone, a health seeker, I would call them, right? Or if you are a physician, just the fact that you have that two-way where there is that building ecosystem and community that if you need to find a physician that understands this approach, right? You have a place you can go to and the other direction as well. And then the sliding scale, I think, is important to kind of visualize and let them understand this propensity.
Yeah, so we look at this opioid addiction is pretty interesting because these are the genes that we know something about. We know that they're associated with an increased risk of opioid addiction. So this is a good thing to tell, to know that you're at high risk. So don't ever let a doctor give you an opioid. And mine is fairly low, which is good, but doesn't mean they're addictive still. But you might have genetic
Yeah.
variants that make you highly susceptible to immediately being addictive. So
And that's very important for surgeries because
yes.
often in surgeries, opioids are used, you know, either pre or post surgery. And depending again on this, that can have an impact on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then,
And
this is
may I?
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dr. Dunn, but I wanted to add, even more importantly, is really pain management. And I can speak about this because my son was born with sickle cell disease. And one of the things I think that were fascinating the doctors was the fact that Ahmad, my son, was diagnosed at 5 months old, and he wasn't. We were told he weren't going to live past 2.5 years old. So he'd been on pain medicine. He's now 37. He's going to be 37 this year, and he's really been on pain medicine, opioids, all his life. And I think he became somewhat of a case study because after 30 after 32 years of being on opioid and pain medicine, the opioid didn't wasn't working for controlling his sickle cell crisis pain. But on the other hand, Ahmad didn't develop a real addiction to opioid in the standard fashion that most sickle cell patients and people who deal with chronic pain actually develop. And the doctors were fascinated by that. So I'm just bringing that up because there's a huge swatch of people that for whatever reason are on opioids for back pain, all types of pains. And if I can imagine if they have a predisposition to addiction, I can imagine where that leads them. So I just wanted to interject that in the conversation. Thank you.
Miss Paula, that thank you for that. That was really good. Just for that, I need to connect Dr. Dunn. We have to connect with Dr. Newton and Dr. Boyette because they're chronic pain management specialists who actually looking at alternatives from opioids for former addicts and stuff. So this is a very good place for that. Thank you, Miss Paula.
Yeah, absolutely. And that shows you, that there are genetic variants there. Not everybody who does an opioid is going to get addicted. And so thanks for sharing that. These are the, can you see my screen still? You seeing the gene table?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Report
So just
summary.
yeah. So just briefly, because I know we're running out of time here, but you can see this is the results. We're looking at the SNP or the enzyme here, and then the RSID number. So each gene was assigned a number in the Genome Project, so we know that what it is and what it does. And then we have a risk allele. In the literature, it says if you have inherited an A, then you're going to have an issue with making melatonin, actually, in this case. But I got a GG, which means I got the right code, and it comes up green, or it could come up yellow, which means one parent gave you the wrong code. And the red ones are the ones that I was given both parents gave me the wrong code for. This one has to do with how well we break down alcohol, and I'm a terrible drinker. I can't drink because it just makes me sick. So, but you can click on any of these and look it up, and you can see what it does. This enzyme plays a critical role in calcium homeostasis, blah, blah, blah. And then you can click on the links there, and it'll take you right to where I found that study. So everything backed up by a good study all the way through. So it's very much backed up by science.
Can we,
So you
before you jump on from here, because this is very important for the researchers and the biomedical professionals,
yeah.
the tie-in that, the map that you guys seen and everything that we're talking about here is backed by peer reviewed research, right? You don't have to go searching for it. It's directly here, and it's also a continual source. And the other thing I wanted to point out here that's very important is that it's upgradable, real time upgradable. Can you speak to that as you get new information? How does that impact the patient's information or the health seeker's information?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so I'm always doing research, and I have a geneticist on staff, and we're always looking for new studies that have come out. Oh, this gene is associated with depression or anxiety or irritability or whatever, and we can add it in. So every time you log in, it's updated. So it's always real time. The links are always live, so you can go right. If you're one of those people who are like a nerd, a biochemistry nerd or genetic, you can dive deep into this stuff and really get in there. If you don't want to, the sliders are great because it'll tell you, okay, that's enough. I get the sense. I'm at risk there. So, and then the diet and lifestyle and the supplements will tell you how to balance it. So it's super easy, or it's super like detailed, depending on how deep you want to go.
So, Dr.
May
Dunn,
I?
yeah, I'll let you, in a minute, Miss Paula. So, after Miss Paula gets done, we have a half an hour left, and in this half an hour, and we're going to get to some solutions and nutritional pathways, going forward, because this is not the end all, right? You don't just get the swab, you know that. Now what? Go ahead, Miss Paula.
So, would it be fair, Dr. Dunn, to surmise that my Happy Gene uh, products and services are really a way for an individual and or family or group or tribe to take control of their physical, mental, emotional well-being? Would these be considered tools for well-being? Those who are interested in really not in pursuing happiness in terms of a balanced and healthy life. Would it be fair for us to call these tools for well-being, personalized,
Yeah,
individualized tools?
100%, because you know what works for one person is not going to work for another. So we look at very specific kind of diet recommendations. Like if for me, I do have that TPH gene. I have to avoid, those foods, and I feel much better. I understand my body better, and I know what can knock it off balance now. So I don't do those things, or if I do those things, I know how to balance it with nutrients. So it's very empowering, and definitely tools for not just brain chemistry but overall health. So we look at, and here's another example of when we look at weight. I had a patient who came to me she used to fly in from New York to see me in New Mexico, and she had to buy 2 tickets because she was so big that she couldn't fit in one seat. And as a natural healthcare practitioner, I stopped talking to people about sugar and eating wrong because they just didn't listen. They didn't do it. And it was clear that she was eating too much and taking in too many calories and not exercising. And there's a prejudice there to people often think to themselves, well, why didn't she put the donut down and go for a walk? And so it's not that way. And I look at it now as a symptom, not a cause when somebody's eating that way. So when I put her on a program with her genetics, gave her the right supplements, and she went back home. And she called me about a week later, and she's crying. And I was like, what's going on? And she said, it wasn't my fault. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, I can't, I thought it was willpower. I just can't stop eating cookies. She said, every night I eat about a package of Oreos before bed, and I couldn't stop it. I just felt like there's something wrong with me, and my willpower should be better. But she said, I don't even want it now. It doesn't even sound good. And so she stopped, and her weight started to come off, and she was able to start exercising. And so I think we have there's a paradigm shift here. If if you get the brain chemistry balanced, you get the body balanced, we want to eat right and we want to exercise and we want to do the things that are healthy for us. It's when we're out of balance that we can't. We can't control the cravings. And this feeds into the whole addiction sort of conversation as well. I've had people addicted to methamphetamines that when we got them balanced, they went not even interested anymore. And so it can be that simple, believe it or not. It's like you get your brain balanced, you fill it with dopamine. If you get enough dopamine in there, not too much, not too little, the brain stops craving those things. And it's what I call biochemical nirvana. You know, you're able to really just be. The thing that people came back saying to me was, I just feel content. Like for the first time in my life, I feel content. Not like giddy with happiness, but like, this feels balanced. My brain feels
Dr.
balanced.
Dr. Dunn, is this age specific? Is this just for adults? Do you have any anecdotal about younger folks?
Yeah, absolutely. All ages. You know, the genes aren't going to change. You're born with them, and so they're not going to go anywhere. But ADD, kids with ADD, I've really been able to help them with just some very specific targeted nutrients. Yes, Miss Kim, is that you?
Yes, this
Sorry, can
last
I
half
come in
an
and
hour is
answer?
going to be Miss Kim. Go ahead, Miss Kim. Go for it. She's all yours.
Gosh, Dr. Dan, can I be your Africa case study?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
You know how I felt like, oh, finally somebody understands why suddenly I'm forcing myself. I'm really struggling to go back to my exercise.
Yeah.
I was actually confessing to my daughter this afternoon because one of those things that you're so embarrassed. This is what you train your children, you tell them, but suddenly you can't do it. I've come up
Yeah.
with all excuses that dogs don't want to go for a walk. I mean, since when dogs don't want to go for a walk?
Yeah.
I'm eating so badly, which I'm very particular because one of
Mm-hmm.
my both of my daughters, I have two daughters, they're very predisposed to weight. So I've raised them with very strict ways of eating. Like I'm very particular on do's and don'ts. And of course I have to model the behavior. But the past 3 months, I have dropped the ball. Of course, festive season, I had the excuse. Now, today, I woke up and I'm feeling so embarrassed. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to eat all the bad things. So, thank you so much. So, it's not my fault.
Yes. Yes. You get it.
So, I need to
You
know,
get
what
it.
should I do? So do we have to go for, do we have to be tested for genes and all that prior to medication?
Yeah. Yeah, not medication, but supplements. Yeah, so we can look at your genetic variants and see where you're going off track. And thank you for understanding that, because it's very shameful, when we can't do the right thing and we can't. There's a lot of pressure for us to just get out and exercise, but if you don't have fuel in the tank, you can't exercise. It just depletes you and makes you feel even more tired. So think of it as a symptom, and again, not your fault. And so it's like, something's off balance here. We need to get your physiology back on balance, and you do that through understanding your biochemistry and why that's happening now. So don't blame yourself. It's good. You get it.
So, Dr. Dunn, we're going to foreshadow a few months from now. Miss Kim ordered her kit. She took her swab. She understands what's going on. What's the plan forward?
So yeah, so when she gets her results back, we can I can hook up with you. That I have a practitioner account, so that brings up another thing about practitioners. But we can hook your client account to my practitioner account, and then I can see your information. You can give me permission to see it, and then we can get on a Zoom call and we can go over your report and look at what is the right diet for you, what are the right supplements, and then in 30 days we reassess. You take the questionnaire again and see if we're going in the right direction. And you're finding, but if you're still like, no, it's still craving, I'm like, okay, we need to tweak you a little bit and we'll get you there. So that's the benefit of a practitioner really working with you so that we can help you understand what we're doing. And so the practitioners, so we're looking for licensed healthcare providers that, can work with us. We have about 400 now around the world. I don't have any in Africa, so it'd be nice if you could find me some people in Africa. I don't have anybody in Belize yet either, Paula. Are you a healthcare provider,
Don't,
Miss Kim?
don't worry. I'm on it.
Oh,
So anyway, it doesn't
actually,
worry.
I'm not. I'm surrounded. Hmm.
So that's
Sorry,
okay.
Dr. Dan. I was explaining. I'm
Go ahead.
surrounded by a family of medics.
Oh,
I'm surrounded by a family of medics. I've actually dragged some of them. I've shared this podcast for them to listen, and we just a family of a lot of my cousins, nephews, and nieces. They've gone into the field of medicine, so I have a network that can support that. And then, of course, I shout from the mountaintop. Like, I mean, just a huge network. So we can see to it and get to see how that could fit in. Obviously, we'll discuss this outside this as logistics part
amazing.
of
That's so
getting
great. I love it.
deliveries
Yeah,
within the continent.
Oh my
awesome.
God, I'm coming out of my seat, Dr. Dunn, because I don't think we really understood exactly what it was my happy gene was about and what it did. I mean, I probably had a little more idea simply because of my background. But one of the things that I'd like to do is I'd like to address the audience, whoever's listening to this today, or the audience that'll maybe listening to it in the future. If you have children, I have grandchildren. You have children running around, you got the little plump child who just love to eat everything, stuff their face. And then you have the child that doesn't want to do anything, lazy, is tired all the time, or the
Right.
grandchild that's just hyperactive, can't keep still, tearing everything, getting into fights. This may be an opportunity for those children as a mother or grandmother. I'm appealing to the women specifically because we do make the decisions. This is so necessary for us to understand, even just for ourselves as parents and caregivers, because it'll help us to help them get healthy and on the road to true happiness. This is critical. Dr. Dunn, I'm feeling this way because we have so much illnesses in my family on both sides of on both sides of my family, and because we've spent so much time. I worked in a healthcare background. I was an infection control practitioner, and so there is a standardized medicinal practice really, I think, is losing its essence if it isn't looking at the things that your company is looking at and the tools that you're putting in the hands of consumers and perhaps businesses. I'm sure you're B2B as well, so that we can now have a better understanding of why we're going through changes and how we can make ourselves better so we can pursue and attain happiness. I just want to thank you for that. I'll be quiet now, but I'm coming out of my seat here. Thank you so much. And I so thank you for coming to spend this time with us. I
Oh, yeah,
yield.
yeah. You bring up a lot of stuff there, Paula. Can you imagine? I mean, here are kids that have ADD and they're put on Ritalin and other medications. But what if you could balance it with some basic nutrients and diet change? Or the kid that's violent, and is medicated or taken out of the school system or put in, Dr. Roz and I met at a place or an event called Raising the Bar, where we were looking at brain chemistry that leads to violent behavior and then criminality and recidivism. So what if we got them as kids and we changed the entire trajectory of their lives? The kid that is lazy and just can't seem to get going. What if we balanced him and he became a productive member of society? And it's huge, especially if we get them as little kids and we can balance them and change their lives. So I'm very passionate about that. Starting young is a huge thing. There's a question coming in from Selassie saying, does Happy Genes products scan your whole body system to determine what you should do and what you should not? We don't really scan your body. We look at your genes. And so it's not like real time. We're not looking at what is happening right now. That would be in blood work or that would be in other lab tests. We're looking at what your genes tell us. And then that can code for up to 70% of your personality, down to 10 to 20%. So that's basically what we do, and it's not the whole story. There's an interesting story about a guy who wrote a book called The Psychopath Inside, and what he discovered was there's certain genes that can lead to psychopathy, but they also had to have a traumatic childhood, to really kind of fire those genes up, some abuse, some childhood abuse. I think there are other genes involved, but it needs to be a combination of things. Just because you have that gene doesn't mean that you're subject to that condition, but there's so much you can do to just modify that, and it can be life changing. I'm an example of that.
To speak to that now, I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty confident on this one. But there was something to the fact of Stephen King, who writes all of these horror flicks and stuff like that, has this gene, and it's just that outlet of being able to, be a writer. Actually, he was able to funnel that thing that we're talking about that's dictated by this biology and physiology into something positive. How interesting is that?
That is amazing, and it brings up another point that we self-medicate. I'll ask people, are you anxious all the time because they have that comp gene? And they're like, no, no, no. I meditate, and I take gummies, and I take I take theanine, and I have to uh, exercise. And then I go, well, you're self-medicating. So you are. If you didn't do those things, would you be coming out of your skin? Heck yeah, I'd be coming out of my skin. If you're depressed, we're taking anything we can do to kind of get out of the depression. Means drinking, maybe, or taking drugs, or whatever it is to try to get your dopamine levels up. Um, can be self-medicating. And so if we look at it that way, again, we're taking away, the criminality. They were taking the blame out, and we go, oh, okay, this is have compassion for these people because they're trying to just survive. They've been given, these genes in their brain that change the dopamine levels or the dopamine receptors. Them doing drugs is self-medicating, and if we can get their brain balanced, they just stop doing those things. They don't have to do those, and they can stay sort of in this balanced state.
And what's
So,
important? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Dr. Dunn, can you please give us a quick synopsis on what epigenetics is and how it works, and how, after getting testing, we can get a better understanding of making better choices in terms of our lifestyle and its impact on our overall health and well-being and happiness. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And it really comes back to those enzymes again, the cofactors that fire up the enzymes. So let me share again. Share screen. The entire screen. Okay, share. I'm going to sorry, this is weird. Okay, can you see the biochemistry again?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Oh.
It's
Yes, it's
loading.
loading.
Yep.
It's loaded. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So each of these enzymes, are going to determine your brain chemistry, whether they're working fast or slow. So it's all about how fast do they run. How fast can my brain turn, the tyrosine into dopamine, or tryptophan into serotonin? It's very slow because it's missing vitamin D. So it's like, you can make a little bit, but can we speed up that enzyme? And it's like, yes, the cofactors of vitamin K and A speed up that enzyme's activity. And then my brain makes serotonin and dopamine in a much more productive way, a much more efficient way. And it, boom, changes your brain chemistry. If this enzyme right here, the MAO enzyme, is working slow because you got the wrong code for it, B6 is the thing that upregulates it and makes it run faster. So it's going to break serotonin down and relieve some of that irritation and anxiety. The comps.
Dr. Dunn, can you just explain why the difference in this, why this is an effective approach as opposed to just giving more of something, just trying to, as opposed to flooding the system, right? With a normal. Now they'll say take more or drink more milk or do something to increase it, but because it's a mechanistic problem, no, you oversaturate the system anyway from the normal. Can you just explain that small difference there and why this is effective?
Yeah, important concept. Thank you, Dr. Oz. So vitamin D receptor, for instance, imagine it is just not shaped right? Because I got the variant there. More vitamin D is not going to help. You can put a bunch of vitamin D in there, the receptor isn't working. So it's actually becoming toxic. The vitamin D can become toxic because I can't absorb it. It's going to be in the bloodstream and creating toxic symptoms. So if you get your blood work done and your vitamin D looks low, all the doctors are going to say, "Oh, we got to give you more. We got to give you 50,000 IU once a week." I mean, it's
Right.
crazyville. You got to have the receptor cofactors, and that's the difference between our company and a lot of other companies. And that's really it's a variation on epigenetics. When we talk about epigenetics is how we kind of on top of genes is what it basically means. Okay, your genes aren't going to change, but we can change how they express in the body. We can work with these enzymes to upregulate the ones that are slow or slow down the ones that are too fast and change your biochemistry. And so that's what we call epigenetics in a different sense here, or nutrigenomics, essentially. Does that make sense?
Yes,
It
can I
does.
ask?
1000%. Go ahead, ladies.
Okay, Miss Paula, you can go first.
No, I didn't want to ask a question. I was just, to me, for me, this is making so much sense. And to me, I see this as the future of medicine is here today, of well-being. Go ahead, Miss Sally.
Yeah, we need part two and part three and part four. Because I just have
Well,
so much to
Miss
learn. And
Kim, Miss Kim, we need the part where we get Dr. Dunn here to Zanzibar, and we're having a My Happy Genes component to the Zanzibar retreat. But
Absolutely.
yes,
I digress.
yes,
Yeah,
but
tell
yeah, let
me.
me be a little bit selfish in the meantime. But yes, Dr. Dan, we're going to Zanzibar. I think we'll have a special show just for that. Because you need to come along and run workshops in Africa.
Okay.
So here's my question. I'm at that point where I'm pushing my daughters to give me grandkids. Can we possibly have their suitors? We still don't have them. We're still looking.
You were
Can
in
we check the
trouble, Miss
genes?
Kim.
Let me hope they're not listening, because yes, I'll be in so much trouble. But I
Uh,
think this makes a lot of sense. We check genes before procreation. Does it make
uh,
sense?
say again. So you're asking if you can increase fertility, basically.
No, no, no. I'm checking on if we can check the genes
The
for their
genes.
spouses, their genes for their spouses before I get children that are running around like
Oh,
lunatics.
I love it.
You
Yeah,
want to test your son-in-laws before they
You
get to
know,
your daughters?
they need those boys have to be checked.
It's
I
a
love
great
it.
idea. It's a great
So
idea. Nobody told me.
you want a screen for CompT. You don't want no CompT. And
And then you need to know if the mix is not right. Is it possible, Dr. Dan, you can tighten some screws?
Sally, you are so in trouble.
Something's gotta be done. No. Honestly, if that's possible, then why are we running around with a lot of, I mean, why are we still procreating and we're causing a lot of trouble to children?
Well,
Yeah.
she didn't have all of this yet, Miss Sally. This is why this is so evolutionary. This is why it's so important. That's why we need to convince everyone in the family to get tested, because it's important. This will cut down
Yeah.
on so much stuff. Your little crazy cousin or your crazy uncle comes to the family on Sunday and he's tearing up the place. He's drunk. Nobody tested him to see what his issues were. We just put him out. So I think, for me, I think, well, hey, listen, we need to get this test to everyone so that we can better understand who we are and why we have our challenges and how to fix it, more importantly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
It's
awesome. Oh,
honestly
tell
so
me about
fascinating.
Tell me about the
Sorry.
Zanzibar retreat. What's that all about?
Should I go for it?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Miss Kim,
yes.
the last 7 minutes are yours. You have to wrap this up. Thank you, Dr. Dunn. Please don't forget to tell everyone how they can reach you. I want you to mention also what type of partnerships or collaborations you're looking for, and then how can individuals reach you. But Miss Kim, you can wrap this up. This was a wonderful show. Thank you so much, Dr. Dunn. By the way, everyone that's listening, we're also on tonight at 9 p.m. We will be carrying this show over, and we'll talk more about the formerly incarcerated individuals and how we met. Because on Lady K and Lady J's show this evening, we all met at the same event in Tampa, Florida. Well, 2 years ago now. Oh my God, time is going. So thank you so much, Dr. Dunn. So
My,
awesome. Take it away, Miss Kim. Thank you, Miss Paula. You brought up some relevant points. I had a great, great episode. Thank you all.
thank you. Oh,
Thank you, Dr. Ras. Um, so we can actually, you can all chip in this conversation. I see I have 5 minutes. I need to be quick. But then, yet, can you allow me first to check out if Miss Paula, do you want to read what Chiesa is saying? It's on the screen.
Yes, I can. Truly insightful conversation today. Looking forward to going through this process. Had me thinking of my grandmother's behavior for decades before she transitioned at 92 years old. To my sisters who have certain ways of being that can be rather abrasive over the years. But this genetic testing could be useful. Happy face. That's Sister Chia's contribution to this conversation today. Not a Christian, but speaking about her takeaway about what she's heard so far. Take it away, Miss Kim.
Thank you. And this makes me ask Dr. Dan as I get to Zanzibar. Are we also with our genes predisposed to, because Chiesa, when she's talking about these, I know Chiesa from LinkedIn, she is such a happy soul. You know, people
mm,
who are always laughing, full of joy. And I
yeah.
just admire those people and try to surround myself with such people. And I mean, we've seen it like sometimes it's a lot of comedians and stuff like that. Does it have something to do with our genes? We're just
Yeah.
predisposed to being happy.
Yeah. And our upbringing, if you're brought up by happy people whose genes are balanced
Mm.
too, that's going to make a difference.
Wow, I'm gonna try to be a happier mom. Okay. So Zanzibar. So yes. So part of what the Happiness Tribe does is we purpose to go on a retreat at least once a year, and we look for places where they can be healing. That is healing our soul. Where there's calm places where we can feel the energy resonates with what we stand for in our spirit of Ubuntu. That's what we preach: togetherness, oneness. That's a very strong Southern Africa word, which literally means we are. I am because we are. So
Mm,
constantly being each other's keeper and checking on each other's well-being. So this particular retreat, each retreat, we theme it in a different way, but we still make sure that we stick to wellness, we stick to happiness. So in this one, we're going to have wellness and technology. And obviously, when you talk about wellness, we blend it so closely with mental health. Because obviously, I mean, we have to always work on the opposite of happiness, which that breeds that, and like what you're unpacking here. So I've worked extensively in different parts of Africa, and I have my spirit that I always leave hanging somewhere in Zanzibar. So I was very
mm,
quick to suggest, can we start with Zanzibar? It's a very beautiful island, which is it's right next to Tanzania. It's actually sort of it's part of legally it's part of Tanzania, but it's a country on its own. It has a very small population, less than 2 million people. There's some energy there that it's just the perfect place where you meet people that are always kind, always happy, always keen to help, to focusing on humanity. How can we support each other as we go through life journey? So this year we chose to do our podcast, our retreat there, which is going to be in October, the last week of October, or probably the first week of November. But we're going to give you tentative dates by end of this new week, and would like you to be our guest there. We also have a very brilliant and beautiful network and energy authorities there. That's why we're hosting the minister, the former minister of tourism, was on our podcast the past 2 Sundays, and it's such a beautiful, neat network. And we can also we are our focus. That's the venue. It's going to be in Zanzibar, but we're inviting people from across the globe. So we have visitors coming from US, from Europe, from different parts of Africa, from Asia, from the Caribbean islands, and you shouldn't miss it.
Sounds amazing. I will intend to be there.
I would love for you, Dr. Dunn. Let's talk offline. I would love for you to do a workshop. Explain this business model to us, what it is you do, have some of the products. Let's get people engaged because I think we all need this. So I would love to see you be a keynote speaker to discuss with us. You know, it's about happiness and it's about well-being. And what you're offering is really tools for us to really pursue our well-being in a most official, in a personalized way. Let me use that one because that's really what this is about. This is not a one-stop shop. This is what works for you after you do the testing. So I'm excited about it. I'll be quiet. I'm sorry, Miss Sally. This was your
Can I,
this was your 4 minutes. I'm sorry.
can I selfishly say also that, we can take this opportunity, given that we're talking about a trip or retreat at the end of the year that is health, wealth, and technology. I want Dr. Dunn, not only so with the My Happy Gene, I think it's a great opportunity because for you guys who or ladies who are listening who don't know, Dr. Dunn and her story is so compelling. We've offered and she's accepted to write the preface to our upcoming ebook, A Blueprint for Happiness, right? Which is just a collective from the Happiness Tribe members on, again, defining happiness, defining tribe, and things there within. And so with that, I think it's a great opportunity to promote My Happy Genes, to promote our book together before the Zanzibar trip. So individuals can read that book, they can get their swab done. So when they're meeting at the trip, we're actually talking about and enacting some of these nutritional pathways, right? And catching up on how that's going and making it a real functional trip. So I just want to say that thank you all so much for being, part of my tribe and part of my happiness, Dr. Ross, and I'm done for the day. Well, for the morning. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We
That
still
was a
have a
lot of
little
fun to
bit
talk.
of just 2 minutes, 1 minute. Miss Paula, do you want to read for us again? We have beautiful messages from our fans from LinkedIn.
Yes. So Chiesa says again, happiness is also a daily choice, even in spite of bringing upbringing and challenging traumatic experiences. Finding ways to co-create healthy, life-giving environments personally and professionally. Grateful for all the mentors and communities globally that have and continue, I guess, to support and nurture way this way of being like the Happiness Tribe. Thank you so much, Cheers. And we welcome you too as a part of our tribe and as to continuously communicate with us. The other one is from Sebasto. New Zanzibar trip. I'm sure going to be there. Well, we look forward to meeting you and seeing you there. Let's hang out with Dr. Dunn. Let's get our stuff tested and let's figure out how we can make ourselves happier. But sometimes psychologically, happiness is a must. So there is a fine line between pure happiness and deception. Well, thank you very much for that insight. We appreciate it. So Grace, Miss Grace, hey Miss Grace, welcome, welcome, welcome home. Miss Grace is a part of the Happiness Tribe. Miss Kim, as funny as it was also a great question. Dr. Dunn, thank you for bringing your wisdom and knowledge to the Happiness Tribe.
My
Most
pleasure.
excellent. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Miss Sally.
Thank you, Miss Paula. Thank you very much.
I think you're
Uh-oh.
on mute. You muted yourself.
I'm so sorry. Dr. Dan, do you have some closing remarks, some wisdom you want to leave us with? And would love to for you to come for part two.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. So
Thank you.
just maybe the compassion part, kind of like letting yourself off the hook a little bit and realizing that maybe some of these things that you think you're beating yourself up for are not your fault, that there's an underlying genetic variant. That doesn't take away all responsibility and just being, not paying attention to it, but there could be an underlying genetic variant that's contributing to it. So just let yourself off the hook a little bit and you know, go for that biochemical nirvana, because it's pretty cool to live in a place of calm, relaxed, and content. It's nice.
Yeah. And actually, that's Zanzibar for you. But then that
Okay.
feels like you've just given me permission to have my wine. I can do my red wine, right?
I don't know if you have the MAO gene, probably not a good idea. But if you don't, then go for it. I'm a scuba diver, and I have some friends who are in Zanzibar right now doing scuba diving, and they're just loving it.
Oh,
So
really?
that would be fun.
That is so
Wow.
cool. We're going to do a lot of that.
So I'm
The
getting
I'm a
friends to
water
synchronicity.
baby.
go to Zanzibar. So it's
That
good.
is so cool. Zanzibar is such a spot. It's just being there. It's therapy for me. That's my happy space. So
Amazing.
I'm certain you'll have fun. But we'll share the details with you. Thank
Okay.
you so much, our listeners, those on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. We appreciate you so much. We appreciate your messages and
Miss
your
Kim,
companionship. Yes.
can I mention? So we will be back next week, and I know for you guys that was tuning and hunkering. We're going to get to the Sensi Band 2 and the Neuroband, and what does everything we talked about with epigenetics, where does EEG come in and that kind of neurotechnology, brain training, neurometrics? So again, that will be next week, as we will continue. If Dr. Dunn is available, we can have her back for next week's show. Or we can do it at another show at her availability. But yeah, definitely we want to go into the cognitive aspect of, now you got this information. How do you take
Mhm.
advantage of all that? And are there technologies and tools to help you do that? So thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of the week. Goodbye.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.